You want a croissant.
Yeah, so God, they're so... You know what? I kind of grew up being raised on the buttery croissants at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that they had such a thing as a croissant pastry at pastry shops or coffee shops until I was 27.
So old enough to know better.
Yeah, I was like, we're going to get a croissant, and I immediately thought of, what my mom always gave me with ham, American cheese, and a piece of egg on it.
Right. Well, that's what I think of when I think of croissants. I think of, like, the croissant-wich from Burger King.
Yes.
The
croissant-wich.
And, I mean, occasionally, a croissant from, like, the grocery store. It's, like, super buttery. You set it on a napkin, and it'll, fall through.
Yeah, or it turns clear.
Yes, and that's how you know it's safe to eat.
Yeah, it's good. This is HIMYM Superfans. Hello, Chris Venezia.
Hello, James Hamilton. I know where I'm at now.
All right. This is the show where we talk about the CBS comedy HIMYM.
And I especially want to ruin the show and Brunch for you, our fans.
This is your spoiler alert. We're going to spoil plot points for the entire series and bacon.
Yeah, right. Bacon. Like the thing where Ted's mom told him that he was allergic to bacon.
Yeah, until he was like 35.
Yes, that's cruel.
Yeah.
Well, his mom's in this episode, so we'll get to bash on her a little bit. So we publish a new episode every week covering season 2 of How I Met Your Mother, and a few special episodes here and there we want to do from time to time. If you want to get caught up with season 1, all of our season 1 episodes are available for download in iTunes, favorite app. Libsyn, they're on YouTube now?
Yeah. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and you can surreptitiously listen to us on work in one of your many, many Chrome browsers.
Yes. So in this episode, we're talking about Brunch, a.k.a. they're not going to make it.
No, they're not going to make it, are they? It was written by Stephen Lloyd and was directed by Pam Fryman, who... Fun fact, Chris, she had a promising career as an omelet station chef. She even won first prize in the 1997 Wisconsin Cheese Festival.
Oh, please go on.
She moved to LA and started in television after an unfortunate misunderstanding involving 120 gallons of cottage cheese, a malfunctioning grain elevator, and the then governor's teenage daughter.
Ooh, that Pam Fryman, she gets into trouble.
It was literally a farce.
Good thing that we're not slandering her anymore.
Yeah. Chris, did you recognize Ted's dad?
Well, I did sort of. Like, Family Ties was one of those shows that when I was a kid, like, my parents were watching, and I was running around in my pajamas when it was on, and, like, I caught some of it, but I didn't really know anything about what was going on. But yes, he looked very familiar, and I knew him as the dad from Family Ties.
Yeah, I had even less exposure to the show. I could probably tell you, oh, yes, I remember him now. And, of course, I remember Michael J. Fox. But, yeah, he's the dad from Family Ties, plays Alfred Mosby. Michael Gross is the actor's name. I did not know this. He's the voice of Warren McGintis in Batman Beyond.
Oh, yeah, Terry's
dad
in one episode?
He was in 2 episodes, I think. He comes back as a ghost or something.
No, don't come back. God. All right, well, who's the next guest star?
Virginia Mosby, played by Christine Rose. I know her from many episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. You know her from your favorite show, Gilmore Girls.
I literally have no idea who she plays on that show. I do not understand why that's still a thing. Who would she play on Friends?
Yeah, she played someone on Friends and Heroes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she was like somebody's mom on Heroes. Yeah. So enough about Gilmore Girls, James. We've got Wendy the waitress, your favorite waitress.
My favorite waitress.
Charlena Moya. And this is the first episode where she hooks up with one of the cast members.
Yeah.
Even it's a guest star.
Right, yeah. So in this episode, Lily and Marshall struggle to define their relationship after the breakup, while Robin and Barney meet Ted's parents for the first time.
Right.
And Ted learns some shocking new information about his family.
It is funny. I like the way that you wrote that. Like, Robin and Barney meet Ted's parents for the first time. Those are the ones that they make a bigger deal about in the episode. But Lily and Marshall have clearly met them before. They don't really say where or when. I mean, I know that he's had more opportunity to introduce his college friends to his parents, but we never really know how much they've interacted in the past.
Yeah. I don't think we would ever see the first time Marshall met Mr. Mosby.
Right. And he's not in much of the show.
Yeah.
Virginia comes back much more.
Yeah.
So if Mother Fan Dan was here, he would say that this is the one where Lily is turned on by Marshall's calves.
We last saw Marshall and Lily making up, but not really getting back together. So this is kind of interesting to see them again. How do you follow that up?
They touch on that in a really natural way at the beginning of the episode, where they sort of recap for the audience that Marshall's like, oh, you mean like the breakup where Lily called off the wedding and moved to San Francisco? And Linda's like, oh yeah, you mean when I came back and I begged Marshall to take me back and he said no? It's like, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So the audience is now refreshed in a really fluid, natural way.
Yeah, I like that. It goes back to something we said about some season 1 episodes where they bring another character in to explain the situation instead of just having two characters who already have the information explain it to the audience. We get to do that with two awesome characters who are coming in, Ted's parents.
Right. They are funny. They are going to steal the episode.
Yeah.
So, James, what was most memorable for you?
You're going to make fun of me for this, but I liked Marshall's zip-off pants because I felt solidarity.
Oh, well, I was going to make fun of you regardless, but yes, that is something that you have in common with Marshall. You have zip-off pants.
I love my zip-off pants. They're so versatile and useful.
You have loved your zip-off pants for a very long time.
Yeah. So, what do you remember about this one?
My most memorable, actually, I really dig this episode, but my most memorable thing about it is that it's the first episode that's told in 3 parts, where you start to get part of the story, and then future Ted is like, nope, hold the phone. I can't tell it like this. This is going to have to be told in 3 chunks that are going to weave themselves together into a tapestry of a story that by the end of it will make sense.
Yeah, I kind of like it because it reminds me of some of these improv games that we used to see a lot more often. Here's what happened from their perspective. And then, 2 other characters would come in and maybe only one had seen the scene. Here's what happened from their perspective. It's an interesting new take on the story.
Hey, folks. Thanks for subscribing to the podcast.
It's been a lot of fun making this show for you all, but it has been and continues to be a lot of work.
Many of you have nice things to say, and you share with us on Facebook and Twitter.
And we want to thank you all for listening. As we continue with our podcast of Brunch, we hope that you take this opportunity to hit the share button on your app or computer.
Those shares are how we know if our hard work is paying off.
Yes, this show can be emotionally challenging sometimes, and it feels nice when we get a lot of shares.
Yeah, it feels good, like when you finally hatch a 10-kilometer egg.
All I usually get is a frickin' wheel.
So when the show opens, there's actually only 2 scenes before we get the credits and the first commercial break. One scene that we'll see again, because it's the 3 different stories that are tying themselves together. The other is the introduction of Al and Virginia Mosby to showcases how they're not comfortable talking to Lily and Marshall about the youngins' breakup.
Future Ted says something like, you remember Grandpa and Grandpa don't like talking about anything emotional or anything at all real?
Yeah. I thought it was funny where Virginia's talking about Ted's cousin or someone in the family, went to a spa. He had a good time at the spa. And Ted actually, good for him for actually, saying something of substance and calling his mom out, because he's going to not do that for much of the episode. But he says, you mean the spa the judge ordered him to go to because of the cocaine?
Yes. He stopped doing cocaine spa. So Al and Virginia don't like talking about anything real. So that's how Lily just explains the plot to everyone.
Right, because they're uncomfortable even asking the question. So it's not just that Al and Virginia are uncomfortable talking to each other, or Ted, or Heather Mosby, or the dead grandma. They're all uncomfortable talking with each other. But not just that, they're also uncomfortable talking to anyone about anything of substance.
Yes, and that happy photograph is the metaphor for all these fronts that they put up, you know.
Yeah, you're taking a picture, you put on your best face.
Yeah.
When somebody asks you how your relationship's going, you put on your best face.
Right.
When your son asks you about your relationship, you put on your best face and you pretend that you're still married and you hadn't been separated for 2 years and divorced for 9 months.
Right, and that's funny here because they show what you do happens if you did that for most of your life. You stayed together for the kids, and now the kids are finally grown and you're separating and doing your own thing. There's Lily and Marshall, they're just starting to put up fronts around each other. And then we see Ted and Robin start to do this a little bit later in the series.
It's good practice for them for what they're going to do when they have to deal with being, exes who are still in the same friend group. Like, they will have to put up a front. At some point, Ted's like, it's not weird that we hang out, all the time, is it? She's like, it is weird. Yeah, it is, isn't it? And, just fun stuff like that, where, like, the audience has sort of gotten used to it, that they still hang out, like, years after they've broken up, or at that point, maybe it was months after they'd broken up, so it was a little more fresh. But, yeah, they're going to have to pretend that things are okay, too, because, unfortunately, it's just, like, what we do as people.
Yeah. There's a lot to cover.
So, I do love all these metaphors. The picture is a metaphor for pretty much all of the couples right now, except for Barney.
Right.
Well, Barney's not in a couple. He does get his line about how a girlfriend is like the flu. Last 2 weeks, and you spend most of your time in bed. Hi-oh!
Hey-oh!
No one there to give him 5.
No.
So after the commercial break, we're actually still in the apartment, exactly where we left them off. Marshall is talking about how it's not going to be weird if Lily comes to the dinner. It is interesting to me, though, that the Mosbys, Ted's parents, invited everyone to dinner except for Lily until this moment, and they're really only inviting her because she's standing right there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have.
Yeah.
They like Marshall. I'm sure they like Lily, too. They're probably closer to Marshall just because, Marshall's his best friend. So they invite Lily to dinner, and that's what sparks this whole thing, where Marshall's like, no, it wouldn't be weird at all. Why would that be weird?
Yeah.
I'm already over it. It was 9 years that we spent together, but I'm over it.
He's putting up one of his fronts.
Yeah, exactly. He's putting on his photograph face.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like Al's reaction in the background when Marshall is talking about how he and Lily are basically like brother and sister now. Yeah. And you can see Al's face. In the background, he's like, no, don't go down this road. No. What are you even talking about? Like, he's got I've been pretending for a long time, with Virginia, and I've got this down. Like, I'm a professional. I would never make this amateur rookie mistake, that you're about to make, Marshall. But you go down this path.
You do your thing. I did not notice that, but I did notice that he's one of the actors you can see in the brunch and dinner scenes who does not put anything in his mouth. So he's an expert actor, always acting, even if he's not the focus of the scene.
He knows what he's doing. I do like that we have Marshall and Lily talking about like being brother and sister. Well, Marshall talking about it and Lily being mortified. There's actually a bit of irony here in that Al and Virginia later on in this episode kind of act like bros.
Yeah.
Later, where she's like happy for him that he hooked up with Wendy the waitress, and then like he set Virginia up with her current boyfriend Frank, who rides the tandem bike. Like they're like wingmen for each other. They're like brother and sister.
He makes a joke about the meeting Robin being the second best thing that happened to him in front of his wife and child.
Right? Yeah, and she's like, "Oh wow, that's so funny. You're so funny with you're hooking up with Wendy."
Yeah, good job. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Way to go.
Right.
Way to go.
Way to go.
So Lily puts on her sexiest dress to go to dinner because she wants to make Marshall jealous, I guess, or just to get back at him.
Yeah, for the brother-sister comment.
Sister thing,
like, I'll show you. Mm-hmm. Because she even like touches his shoulder and like, hey, bro, kind of thing.
Look like you're sweating there a little.
Yeah, right. So she comments on how much she's sweating because she's showing off her bits and things, and he's eating this roll, and that's something I really thought was fun. Like, the roll is really spicy. Is Marshall's out? That's the best he could come up with.
Yeah.
Marshall's actually so fed up that he says he's going to leave. That's actually, it's pretty drastic. But he realizes that, he's going to have a problem, that he's going to get arrested by the Boner Patrol.
Boner Patrol.
If he leaves. So he actually just sits down after saying, I'm going to leave, but and then doesn't. What was your favorite line from this act?
Later, when Lily is seduced and Marshall's taking off, he's unzipping his pants, and then later Lily says, take off the rest of your pants.
Which means the other calf.
Yes.
Not even the pants.
So I like the way they shoot this scene where Marshall's undoing his pants and showing off his calves and massaging him, and they have that close-up shot, and it's just a man's calf.
Yes.
He's not a model.
No.
His skin is not perfect. He's good and hairy.
Yeah.
He's not recently bathed.
Yeah, it's got that sort of sweaty kind of calf looking thing. Like
he walked from the apartment to the restaurant, and he was wearing cotton pants on an 80-degree day, maybe.
No makeup that you can tell in any way. It's a man's calf. It's actually probably his calf.
And then the reaction shots of Lily, where she's just looking so seduced. It's like the gender flip of all the strip shows that we get to see in this show.
Right, and they get to play the porn-sounding music to show that Lily's being seduced.
And that works. They get to the bathroom and they start doing it, and then finish very quickly.
Later on, we get a joke about, it's just a minute or, maybe less.
Yeah.
And that's the only way Marshall knows how.
Yeah.
The only way I know how. I like when Marshall and Lily are talking about their CD collection. Marshall says that he gave her the U2 box set, but he filled it with Dave Matthews CDs. And I love that because Lily has the same reaction that I would have. So I really like that joke.
Yeah, they really ripped on Dave Matthews.
She's not happy. So Barney really wants to meet Ted's parents, almost like he's Ted's boyfriend. And Ted has a good explanation about why he hasn't told his parents about his crazy Barney adventures. It's because he doesn't talk to them about anything. So it's not personal. He just doesn't talk to them. So it's not like, hey, Dad, I lift the Liberty Bell. It's like, hey, Dad, how do you think the Indians are going to do this year?
Right.
And that's the only thing that they talk about. Barney wants to win, just like Marshall wants to win the breakup. Barney wants to win the meeting the parents over Robin.
Exactly.
He wants to be the more important person in Ted's life.
Yes.
Because Marshall's not competing for that in this episode because he's got his own competition.
He's distracted.
So Barney is trying to one up Robin in everything that he does, trying to be the more important person in Ted's life.
I like that because Barney is told point blank that he's not the friend to bring home. And he wants to change that, I think. I think genuinely he wants to change that. Or he's just messing with Robin.
Right.
But at dinner, he seems very happy to make Virginia happy. He seems genuinely pleased with himself when he's agreeing to go to Mass at 8:45 a.m. or listen to a story about a brooch.
Yeah, I don't know. It almost seems like a play to me. He doesn't care about the brooch and he just wants to win. But maybe he does genuinely care.
Is it a play, or is he finding something in Virginia Mosby that's missing in his mom? Virginia Mosby's so kind and caring compared to Mrs. Stinson.
Well, she was doting too, almost a little too much though, is the thing. But she was definitely very motherly, or at least tried to be. The whole time Robin's mortified because she's struggling to even do simple things like have a conversation because she's trying way too hard to be funny and it's not funny.
Right, yes.
And so it just comes off as the girlfriend who's trying too hard. But we do find out that Barney can play the piano. We know that Ted can play the piano. So can Marshall also play the piano, or does he spend most of his time doing toe lifts to tone his calves?
He must have studied piano in order to do the Slap Bet song, Slap Skippings 2.
Oh, yes. Yep. Confirmed. All the guys know how to play the piano. they go to the bar after the dinner. That is Al Mosby and Barney.
Yep.
They wingman for each other. Barney, I guess, is going to do a little catch and release with Wendy.
I think he was going for it.
He says he went home and left his phone at the bar and went back for it, and that's when he realized that Al and Wendy were making out. Very inattentive to her waitressing at that point. I guess unless she was done for the night.
And she got off that night.
Oh, well, she may have. Go Al. So someone on the show finally sleeps with Wendy the waitress.
Finally slept with Shannon.
Finally slept with Shannon. So Barney, though, is still loyal to Ted. He took a picture so that Ted has evidence and is not just left to take Barney's word.
Yeah, I like that. That was a good play on Barney's part. You know what I remember most about this part was Barney kept mentioning the homeless shelter that he was working at. Could this be the Helping Hand shelter, the one he got kicked out of? Did he get back in? Did he get in trouble for peeing on a different church and now he's doing community service somewhere else? Or is he just lying his ass off?
It could be any of those. I mean, those are all good possibilities. I was thinking while you were describing the other ones that it's likely that he's talking about Helping Hands and is no longer helping there.
Yeah.
Because they kicked him out. Yeah, that thing where he does well, Robin, where do you volunteer at? I'm making you look bad right now.
Yeah.
So we move on. Barney comes in and he says, I'm so mad at your dad.
Right, yes. And that's, they get the story, they retell it. And Barney starts making up statistics. 83% of all marriages have someone cheating on the side.
Finally, we get to use 83%. It's something that happens a lot in the show. The last time we had this shortage of dudes was the dude shortage of 1883. So, yeah, we're finally there where we get to use 83 for all of Barney's fake statistics.
Ted learns the news, and just then his dad shows up because of the scene. And Ted goes into the hall to try to confront his dad and just sort of stares at him for a moment and then just comes out with this dumb line, you think Serrano's got a shot at the RBI title this year?
Is that like
that's a little Norm.
You got any gum?
Here they go.
So, yeah, Ted, he can't confront his dad. It's something that he was only able to really do at the beginning of the episode.
Right.
Where he was confronting his mom about his cousin who, because of the cocaine. I like this because Ted mentions his cousin Stacy, who's had 6 kids in 5 years. We actually get to meet Stacy in How Lily Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
Her kids are chanting Grinch, or something that they replaced with the word Grinch at her dinner table on Christmas Eve, which I think is hilarious.
Yes.
I don't care what it was replacing.
It is hilarious. If you find 6 children, teach them that word and have them chant it at Christmas. Videotape it.
Yes. Send it to us on our Facebook group. So my favorite line here is where Ted's saying, you know what? You're an adult with perfectly valid opinions. You shouldn't have to apologize for that. Robin says, I'm going to lie. And Ted's like, I would.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably for the best. Turns out she didn't need to.
Right.
That Virginia's going to completely agree with Robin's choices.
I love any scene where Ted is watching his parents talk to one of his other friends, especially when Robin is talking to Virginia at the dinner. If you notice, he stops chewing mid-bite and then slowly finishes, like he doesn't want to chew too loudly to hear, like he's concentrating on every syllable.
I also thought that could be he wants to make sure that he can chew forever. as long as it takes so that he has something that he's doing. He doesn't have anything to add and kind of just wishes that it would be over.
Maybe someone else will start talking and
right.
I won't have to say anything if I just chew forever.
Yeah, exactly. Robin, her views are valid, and Virginia actually agrees. Virginia says, focus on your job because, your career clock is ticking, which is no one has ever said before or since. She says there's time for marriage and kids and all that other stuff later. She's talking about, what she wishes she had done.
Clearly.
So she doesn't regret having her kids, but she would have waited longer.
Interesting you say that, because I thought there's a scene at the end of the episode that makes it clear she didn't want kids. You're saying maybe she did, but she's grown to love her kids and wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, well,
except maybe just have another 5 years in her 20s to have some fun.
Yeah, like maybe she did want to have kids later than she did. And yes, spend more time in her 20s working on her career. I don't know what things are like, for her now, but maybe she's wishing that she had spent 5 more years on that and had the kids later, or maybe not at all. I mean, the idea is that she's saying, like, there's time for marriage and kids later, and it seems like that's her idea.
Chris, in this episode, Ted is asking for more honesty and open communications in his relationship. Here we see he has become more assertive with his parents. He's, tell me everything. I need to know stuff. And later, he'll try to pry into Robin's life a little bit in the episode Slapbet.
He does.
He doesn't like secrets.
He doesn't. He doesn't seem to learn his lesson in this episode. The family goes right back to not communicating. Well, maybe Ted is still, he wants it, but I don't know, on some level he doesn't, because he talks to his dad about baseball and RBIs and stuff. Slapbet, prying into Robin's life, not respecting boundaries. That seems like par for the course for the group.
And the other thing I noticed about Robin in this episode is she's kind of challenged with this confrontation. She's never wanted kids, but now she's been told that Mrs. Mosby always wants grandkids, except for you. So what's wrong with you?
That's all a miscommunication, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, she's been living a lie for a long time. She's been doing the photograph face for a while. And now, going through the separation and the divorce, she finally feels comfortable being herself and saying, no, I never wanted kids, and I think that women should focus on their careers if that's what they want to do, instead of telling his girlfriend, when am I going to get the grandkids? She's telling Robin, it's like, focus on your career. So it's an unfortunate turn of events that Ted is used to, his last 20 girlfriends being talked to by his mom about, when is she going to get grandkids, to not this time, because Virginia's had a transformation.
Right, yeah.
She's changed.
Yes, that's exactly what's happened. So, Chris, I brought exactly 2 women home to meet the parents.
Meet the parents!
And it was pretty nerve-wracking both times, but I do remember it being a little easier the second time.
Yeah, I think that's something that does get easier over time. Yeah, I brought a few home to meet the parents. It's I think it's more nerve-wracking to meet the parents for Robin, from Robin's perspective. Not Barney, because he's just going to throw someone else under the bus to make himself look better, which is a tactic, but I wouldn't use that. No, I think it's much more nerve-wracking to meet the parent, and it sort of depends on how that parent responds. I mean, Virginia's great. It's just Ted set Robin up with the wrong information, but Virginia's great about it. If you meet somebody's parent and they're like, oh, you do this? Oh, I was really expecting you to do that, kind of thing. You're not meeting their expectation. You're not good enough. Or if they're super nice, then it's super easy. It all really depends. What was nerve-wracking about it?
I felt a pressure to present her as a prize, as sort of a token of my own value, is look what I've done. You've taught me everything. You've let me be educated and sheltered and properly cared for medically, and you sent me out into the world, and there's an expectation that I will be like all the other men and bring home a woman, and she will be beautiful and young, and that will be a measure of my success.
Well, it's not. Oh, we gotta shatter those expectations. But I'm sure it was fun. I'm sure your parents were very, very nice and thoughtful, and both of these ladies felt very included and comfortable.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm the only person who's ever had that thought.
No, I'm just saying that's not what it is. And
logically, I knew, of course, that was just a fantasy, but part of my mind, I think, lizard brain,
yes,
sort of way. It was like, oh, yeah.
So Ted explodes at his dad.
Yep.
And yells at him.
And an unfortunate waitress.
Yeah, right. Yeah, calls her a floozy, which she didn't deserve. But that's that's really kind of part of what I want to talk about here. It's I'd rather think for several minutes or hours or even days about what I want to say in this kind of situation, and then calmly say what I've rehearsed and triple checked in my mind to make sure that it's going to come out the right way. Exploding my feelings on someone is really unlikely to help.
Yeah.
Even if it might feel better. And Ted probably felt, he felt better. But it's not going to help anything. And then his dad is caught on where like, oh, where is this coming from? And now he doesn't get the opportunity that Ted's had to think about it. Now he's on the spot and has to say something. That's what's unfortunate, like when you explode at somebody, like they don't get the time to think about it like you did or like I did in this hypothetical. And I think that's about as close as you're going to get to your life lesson for this week is if you got time to think about something, give somebody else some time to think about it too.
I've been calling out all the characters when they just explode their feelings at it, near the end of the episode to sort of move the plot along. But I never thought of it from the other character's perspective. They are suddenly accosted with someone yelling at them and challenged with this information, and this other person has all these thoughts in their mind about it. Like you said, you're immediately on the defensive.
He's kind of done with this whole charade.
Right.
He's been comfortable with it for as long as they've been doing it, but now that it's too much work almost. It feels like to me to keep the charade going. He just tells them. Virginia's like, well, Al, you, Al, and she slaps him on the shoulder, and that is funny. But Al's just like, we're divorced.
Yeah,
I'm done. I quit. This is too much work to even hide it.
Yeah. Clearly, at that point, it's better for you to think of us as divorced than as me as a cheater and your mother.
She doesn't care. Like a woman who doesn't have enough respect for herself that it's okay for her husband to sleep with Wendy the waitress. So, but yes, Virginia's reaction is like, oh wow, I'm so mad at you.
Oh, and then immediately once the truth is out, Virginia looks so happy. She's like clapping her hands together because she gets to tell Ted about what's his name and the tandem,
Frank,
and the tandem bike. She's like, "Oh, I've been waiting to talk about the tandem bike rides with Frank."
She does. She wants to talk to her son, her only son, about this guy that she's excited about and their tandem bike rides and how happy she is that Ted got her that gift. She's not been able to talk about this bike.
Yeah.
For several months. She wants to talk to her son about this, and she can't. And so now that once, it's out there and the pressure's off, Ted doesn't feel any better, but the parents do. And they're like, yay, we get to talk to our son. Because that's actually been the problem of not communicating. Like the not getting the hard part out in the open has kept them from having any substance to their conversations at all. And Ted's been perceiving it as what they've always done, but they've actually wanted to. The parents have wanted to communicate more with him, but they can't because of the photograph face.
Exactly.
I do want to throw out here that Virginia is dating some guy named Frank. I don't know who that is. I don't care. This is not Clint.
Yeah, not Clint, but...
So she doesn't marry the first guy that she dates after Al.
Yeah, Al gives a little clue that Frank was Ted's orthodontist?
Yep. That's right. He did your braces.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, it is. And then that's when Ted's had enough and he leaves.
Yeah. And since they need Barney out of the scene, he leaves for the omelet station.
But not before he says that Al told him at McLaren's that he was divorced. It's like, oh, you know what? I did know that. Al, he told me he was divorced. That means that Barney knew the whole time and he was doing his own charade, which is fine. That's what he does.
Yes.
That means that Barney pushed things forward, so that Ted would find out, but didn't just tell him. Because he could have just walked in there that morning, I'm so mad at your dad. He slept with Wendy the waitress, and he's divorced from your mom.
Yes.
I'm so mad that he didn't tell you that. He could have done it, but he wanted him to hear it from his parents. And then also, that means that Al told Barney, who at this point he knows is one of Ted's really good friends, that the information is gonna get back to him. Maybe that's just how Al wanted this to happen. It wasn't tell a phone, it was tell a friend.
Or I think Al never expected to hook up with some super hot New York waitress, and the only obstacle in the way was my son's friend. So I'll just tell him,
yeah.
Because Boner Patrol is after me.
So Marshall gets mystic tans, possibly only on his calves, possibly only on one calf. They're not actually sure because he withdraws his question so that he doesn't have to answer Lily's.
Yeah, it could be like him coloring in his butt. Like he each had like half a can of Mystic Tan left. It's like, oh, try to smear it around.
Yeah, smear it around. Yep. Marshall very likely went and got a Mystic Tan after dinner before brunch to get this done. In my mind, like it's that important. Like he knows how he's going to get back at Lily, and he does it that fast.
He goes to the 9 a.m. tanning salon.
Well, yeah, like the brunch is likely going to be at 10. They already had the mass, at 8:30.
Right.
So yeah, brunch is likely at 10, maybe 9:30. Maybe Marshall. That's another reason why he's so sweaty because he like ran to the Mystic Tan place and got there at like 9, and brunch is at 9:15, and so he like runs from the Mystic Tan place because he doesn't need dripping with sweat, and Mystic Tan juice.
Yeah.
So
beet juice. That would be one of the best episodes that was never written.
Well, yeah, like and he can't seem to get a cab or like one of the trains. So it's almost like a Marshall versus Machines kind of thing. Like Marshall gets a Mystic Tan
or not.
Right, we don't know because he withdraws the question.
Yes. So pretty obvious color allegory here at one of the final scenes.
They can look down at themselves.
Right. Yes. The mother and father Mosby dressed just like the children, and they're not getting along because they just fundamentally don't connect on so many levels.
Virginia is exactly like Robin. The grounded one, the down-to-earth one, and didn't want kids, didn't really want to get married, didn't even really want to go out with Al in the first place, but he hounded her. He's the hopeless romantic. There is a difference between Ted and his dad, though. That Ted likes telling stories and Al doesn't. That aside, these two are clearly not going to make it. We heard that in the pilot.
Yeah.
Robin's not the mother, so we know that this relationship is going to end at some point.
Then they go in, and the last thing we learned is that Grandma Mosby is dead.
Yeah, Grandma's dead, and they haven't told him, so... as any true sitcom, the parents have learned nothing and have not changed at all. They are not actually going to communicate more, even though they promised that they were going to. Ted is pretty much the same at the beginning. He wants them to communicate more, but still finds it challenging. So everything is the same, except Ted finds out that his grandma's dead.
Robin has this really sad look on her face, but this is like a funny scene. It's played for laughs, but her reaction is completely real. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't tell you your grandmother died.
Kind of like the scene when Al's talking about Virginia didn't want to have kids, and he changes she also wanted to have kids. There's not really a way to make that funny to Ted at all.
No.
So not saying it, being she also wanted to have kids, kind of makes it funny for the audience, which is the best that you're going to get. Grandma died. Yeah. How is that funny? In someone's expression or in not being told.
So, of course, the first time we see Al and Virginia Mosby, and a little clue into Ted's past. Ted's mother didn't want kids, as we learned in this episode, so maybe there is something about Ted's relationships with women and not getting the right amount of affection from his mother.
It could be. That's interesting, and I didn't think that's where you were going with that.
It's a stab in the dark, really.
Yeah, but it could be, and that's not what I thought you were going for. I thought you were thinking that because she didn't want to have kids, that he does the opposite, where he wants to find a woman who definitely does want to have kids.
So, Chris, what was the best moment of the show?
I can't name a best moment. There's too many things, and they gave too much funny stuff to everyone.
Yeah.
That's a problem that one could have. Is that the episode was too funny.
Everyone played to their strengths, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't like that Marshall and Lily hooked up in this episode, but then seemed like they still hated each other in the next scene, because I will say that I think that hooking up with an ex is a great way to let go of some of that anger. You've had anger, you broke up, and then whatever time passes after that, you hook up again. You can forgive a lot I think, in hooking up with an ex, and they don't take advantage of that opportunity to like let go of some of like those lingering things that they were upset about. You can just let that frustration out in the boning of doing it.
Away.
Yeah,
fuck your troubles.
You just feel better about the breakup and about them, and like, oh, that's right. We don't actually hate each other. And they go, they're wishing each other was dead after they had just done it. I don't get that.
Yeah, I love the part where the Mosbys come clean, and there's this great screen grab where they just have this look on their faces, like, well, you figured it out, dummy.
Where was Detective Mosby on that one? Like, Mosby boy, he was a bit of a detective that didn't figure out for almost 3 years, the better part of 3 years, that his parents weren't together.
Right.
I feel like this episode didn't have a pair of characters that this episode would belong to. It was like a round table episode to me. What'd you think?
I agree. It's a Ted and Robin story, sort of. It's a Lily and Marshall, but just a little bit story. It's a Barney story. It's a Ted and his parents story. It's a Robin Virginia story.
Yeah, Robin gets her ideas validated by Virginia, and I think that's important because she doesn't meet a whole lot of people in the show that have similar ideas to her. I do have a life lesson, sort of. I was talking about it earlier, where like instead of blowing up at people, think, talk, express, or let go, but don't bottle it up and explode at people. That's what I think.
And if that doesn't work, just fuck the emotions away. Fuck the hate away.
I think there's to an extent that you can do that.
You can replace all the hate in the world with more fucking.
Not usually so much language in the episodes, but I think that you're right.
We just signed up for iHeartRadio.
and I think that that's true. I think that can cover a multitude of problems, where you can use that to solve them.
Yeah.
Where appropriate.
Exactly.
The calves is probably the most memorable thing for me. Like, if I had to pick one thing, it was like the most memorable. Not my favorite, not like the best thing about the episode. Like, what is most memorable? I'm going to go with calves.
How many other episodes have calves? So I will agree with you there. I didn't think anything was particularly quotable from this episode, like we picked up other quotables. So, but I definitely will remember Jason Segel's sweaty calf forever.
Yeah, burned into your brain.
Yeah. So that's all we had to say about this one, folks. What did you have to say?
So if you are on Facebook, leave us a note on our Facebook group. The website is www.swingers.openmarriagesnatural.legalizedpolygamy.org.
Chris, no. It's just facebook.com/groups/HIMYM Superfans and unsubscribe me.
What? No, you need the newsletter. How else are you going to get information? All right, fine. So where do people tweet at us?
That would be at HIMYM_James.
And if you like the podcast, all we ask, not very much, is that you like, comment, subscribe, share, upvote, retweet, and I would like you to give me a Charizard at cashinonthepokemoncraze.com.
Yeah, we get paid in likes, shares, and Pokemon. And I'm only 126 more Pikachus away from getting the fake mustache and the tiny mustache cone.
Please give us those shares and those likes so that we can catch them all, and we'll be back next week with Ted Mosby, Architect.
Architects rule!
Ted Mosby, Architect.
Yeah. So check that out next week, and check out the Facebook group all week for new stuff. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace out.